everybody, we are here to talk through the January 2022 release of Crunchy Red Fruit. We have 6 wines here from all over the world, and the theme here is behind the curtain. These are wines that we worked ahead of time either to help make, to help import, or to cordon off ahead of time so that we could put them in this release. So we have some really fun things for you and wanted to show you what we have. We're starting with the Muthenthaler Grüner Veltliner, and this is a white wine coming from Austria, from the Wachau region. The 2 grapes from the Wachau that are very popular are Riesling and Grüner Veltliner. Grüner Veltliner is kind of like Riesling because it's very clean and bright, but instead of floral and fruity aromas, Grüner Veltliner is all about the savoriness. So when you put your nose in this glass, you get this white pepper and this lentil and this kind of deep, funky, earthy thing, rutabaga, green beans. All these things that you normally don't encounter in white wines are present in this glass. It's very dry, and it finishes with that savory quality too, but it's great body and great texture. Grüner Veltliner is such a cool food wine. You can do this with things that are otherwise hard to pair foods with, like asparagus and artichoke and bitter vegetal dishes, and white fish or freshwater fish is really good with Grüner Veltliner. So speaking of white pepper notes, and just peppery notes in general, this next white is coming to us from Spain, or more specifically Catalonia, and this is from the Penedès region, which is right outside of Barcelona. It's where a lot of the world's cava is made, and this is Sellar Pardas Pell a Pell. And Pell a Pell refers to skin contact, pell meaning skins, or skins of the grapes. And so this is a wine that's made with a little bit of texture and skin contact in the white wine making process, where they're actually macerating these white grape skins and the juice for 15 full days. I love how savory this wine is on the nose, but it doesn't smell like Grüner Veltliner. It has some peppery notes, some black pepper and pink peppercorn and white pepper, but it doesn't necessarily smell that savory root vegetal quality that Grüner has. It comes with a little more apricot and a little more peach. I think this wine's so cool. And when you do skin contact wines, they have a lot of texture as well. So you put this on the palate, the texture here is huge, and you actually get a fair hint of bitterness coming on the palate too. It's really cool stuff. This next wine is coming to us from the Columbia Gorge. It's made by Julia Goldstein, and they have started this project called Loop de Loop, and then Wallflower is kind of a side project of theirs. Now this is a wine that actually had some smoke happen in the vineyard, so you're actually gonna see some smoke on this, and a lot of winemakers will call it smoke taint, but it actually depends on the style of wine you're making to call something smoke taint or faulty in any way. Because if you're making a crushable, bright, refreshing type of red like this, smoke's not necessarily always a bad thing. In fact, last year we did a lemonade rosé made from Willamette Valley fruit that had been affected by smoke, but it made such a delicious, crushable summer rosé. And this is kind of a same thing, although a little more richness and weight and color to this wine. This is made from Syrah. It's all from the Columbia Gorge, coming from vineyards between 800 and 1,500 feet of elevation. So high altitude Syrah grapes mixed with a little Grüner Veltliner, mixed with a little Pinot Noir. And it's so delicious and bright and juicy. To me, you gotta do this with chicken. This is like begs for roast chicken. Do like a spatchcock roasted chicken, or do a smoked chicken in a Traeger or on your charcoal grill. Something where you're gonna imbue a little bit of flavor into white meat. Also just drink it, it's delicious. It's a good burger wine too. Next up, and another thing really great with roasted chicken, is Vallot Côtes. And this is a lady winemaker. Her name is Anaïs Vallot, and she is the 5th generation winemaker of her family, doing amazing things in the Rhône Valley. This is a blend based on Grenache with a little bit of Syrah and Mourvèdre and Claret and Bourboulon as well, which are other blending grapes, but the chief component here is Grenache. Grenache to me is bright red fruit, and it's cooked fruit. So it's not just fresh fruit, but it has that sort of raisinated or syrupy fruit quality too. It's crazy because it hits with all this really upfront, big, juicy, ripe fruit, but then it finishes so savory. Lots of rosemary and lavender and all sorts of toasted green peppercorn happening on the finish. It's just really cool. And for Côtes de Rhône, which is a category that a lot of sort of insipid and cheap red and white wines fall under, this is a little more serious example with a lot of texture, but still something that's cheerful, kind of wants to be your friend, easy to drink. We're going to move to this wine, another wine from France, but now we're going to Bordeaux. And Bordeaux has lots of tensions in the region, at least as I see it, because Bordeaux is a place that celebrates wealth and power and accomplishment, and certainly the wines themselves do too. There's lots of wines that are kind of seen as these big paragons and luxury goods and luxury items, and these chateaus that provide luxury experience for their owners and their guests. And while those are wonderful wines, there's a soul of Bordeaux that is connected to farmers who actually work their land and have their hands dirty and have overalls, and they're just busy working in the fields and trying to make a living. And that's the kind of wine we're looking at here. This is Château Moulin, and it's called the Cuvée Piverts. And the Piverts, as you can see on the label, is a French word for woodpecker. And because this wine has no sulfur added and no chemicals added at any point in the process, they're kind of saying that this is going to give you less of a hangover than highly processed wines that have lots of chemicals added in both the vineyard and the winery. We could get into a debate about that, or we could just say, hey, it's a fun label, and we are generally at Crunchy Red Fruit going to prefer things that are made with less intervention and less added chemicals or added processes in the winery and vineyard. This is 100% Merlot. Merlot to me is red fruit. It is chocolate and tobacco and red fruit and green herbs, and that's what's going on in this particular glass. It's red plum, it's red currant, it's got that slight mintiness and slight green note, but not as green as like a Cab Franc or a Cabernet Sauvignon. It's actually really rare to find a Bordeaux that is 100% of any one grape variety. And that's what's cool about this one, is that it really has its soul couched in the Merlot grape. That's what's delicious about this. This is something you'd want to pair with beef Wellington or some kind of beef tenderloin where you've encrusted it with, you know, breadcrumbs or Parmesan, and I think that's the pairing we've chosen. You should definitely make something stewy or beefy or earthy to go with this, because there's a wonderful note of earth besides all that fruit coming off this wine.